Hello fantastic creatures, I'm Fantasims and welcome to my channel. In today's video I'll show you how to make this retro Star Wars inspired cargo spacecraft in The Sims 4 using only objects from the game. Let's get cracking. Okay, so I built this spacecraft to go with my Millennium Falcon decoration for my Black Spire Outpost build I started last year, and I wanted to challenge myself to build Galaxy's Edge Black Spire Outpost featured in Universal Studios without using anything from the Star Wars Journey to Batuu game pack. So the goal was to post this before the pack came out last year, but I couldn't finish it in time, so the videos might not do as well now that the pack is out, but I hope you'll still like it. I mean, it's probably going to be Star Wars fans watching it anyway, so it's never too late to post Star Wars stuff. Anyway, I ended up not using this spacecraft because I accidentally made it too big, but I still think it's cool and can be used for another sci-fi build. And now you guys can use it in your builds too because it's up in my gallery as a room. So you'll see me here trying to size it within the room that it was gonna like sit above. I was gonna later elevate it above to sit on the roof and like have cargo coming out from the ceiling, just like it is at Black Spire Outpost. So I'm trying to get it to fit inside the room, so it's a very tight claustrophobic space, and I later move it onto a separate lot of its own, just so that I could have room to see what I was doing. But basically I wanted it to have this very retro bus-like look, kind of like how service vehicles, like a street sweeper or something like that, usually has that very chunky look to it. And I went with colors like red, yellow and grey because a lot of service vehicles have that look to them. And personally I don't like when red and yellow is put together. I never have, I think because it reminds me of Ronald McDonald. And so every time I see red and yellow together, it just makes me think of McDonald's or like mustard and ketchup together, and I don't like the look of it. But I think for this build, this little spacecraft that I made, I think it went well. So I was using these booths from Discover University, they're debug, and a lot of times stuff like that, like objects that look like that, can't be rotated, but these could, and so I thought they were perfect. I mean, they didn't have the grungy look. A lot of Star Wars spacecrafts look really grungy and used, and as a service vehicle it probably would look really grungy and used, but before the Journey to Batuu pack came out, the grungiest objects we had are from Strangerville, and there's only a select few, and I was always making my spacecrafts out of those select few objects that came with the grungy type of swatch. So it looks a bit clean. Maybe it's like a brand new service vehicle that hasn't really been used a ton yet. So I used this trailer caravan, I think it's a base game one, or maybe that one is from Strangerville as well. And then I put down those metal sliding garage type doors from, what pack is it? Oh, City Living. I think it's City Living anyway. And then I just kept trying to find objects that I thought looked kind of spacecrafty. So I'm using these, what are they? The samples, the chemical analyzer tables from Strangerville. And at first I was going to put them on the top, but then I decided to put them on the bottom. And I put them to the side for a while, so I just kind of position them here to get a sense for what I was going to do later, but I ended up putting them to the side so that I could work on some other stuff. And the thing I love about the syringes that you see me using to shape around the edges is that these syringes from Get to Work, they are in the debug menu, and also Strangerville. They are a bit pixely, but they do have a really cool shape for making sci-fi looking stuff because it's got those rounded edges, the different shades of grey. So I actually love using these syringes in spacecraft. And then I was just trying to find, it took me forever to try and find the right kind of objects to use to create a good shape. And I kept using the Discover University booths as much as possible so that it had a more of a consistent look to it. And then Get to Work objects kind of tied into it. It had that angled look, so those boxes, the Get to Work boxes, crates, whatever they were, I used at the top. But shaping the top I think was one of the hardest things to do, and then later the back wing, I struggled a lot with that. But I was just playing around with tons of objects trying to see how I could hide this trailer caravan so it didn't look so obvious like a trailer caravan, because all I wanted was the glass windows at the front because they have that perfect curved shape and I wouldn't have to come up with my own type of windows. And then I love these plane parts from the plane crash from Strangerville. They are tilted slightly, so I think I angled them, I think it's probably somewhere around 25 degrees or something like that, so that they lay straight, and then I just mirror imaged it on the other underneath part, because it's not, it only comes as like part of a propeller. Part of it's supposed to be like submerged in the ground, so to make it look like it's a full propeller, you have to put one on top of the other. Anyway, and then I used these from Get Famous. They're the wooden types of sliding doors, and I wanted to black out the part where I'm putting a ramp in front of. I wanted to black it out so that I could actually have cargo unloading from it. And then I later on use a lot of, you see there, the exomech suits, the robotic suits from Discovery University that you can craft. I have a room full of them if you want to just download them pre-made. I wanted to have them around as sort of the workers pulling stuff out of the cargo ship, and then I wanted to stack a ton of cargo around it. And as you can see, as I'm laying more and more objects, it's getting bigger and bigger. So when it started out, I think it was the perfect size, but by the end it was so huge. I posted a picture of it on Twitter and everyone was pretty much laughing because it was so big and it looked really ugly on the roof. So I decided not to use it, but I still think it's a fun cargo spacecraft. And then I love the powdery red finish on the recycling machines from Eco Lifestyle, and the red tied in perfectly to this grey and red and yellow look, so I used that to shape the top. And then I used a neon sign from Get Famous, like I think it's for like a movie theatre, as just to create some lighting, especially at night, but to tie in that grey and red look to it. And that was a very finicky part, because many of you have probably experienced this glitch. I've had this glitch in my game for months now, where anything that you elevate, even if you don't use the tool mod to rotate and elevate stuff, anything that's elevated above the ground, if you try and make changes to walls, add fencing, change the color of the walls in a room, it deletes anything you've elevated. So later on, when I try and shape the floor around it so that I could save it as a room, it kept deleting things, which was super annoying. So it took a very long time to finish that top portion, but I think it turned out great, so it was worth it. And I love how the lights look at the front. With the yellow lighting, I used that grill. The grill lighting from Strangerville. It's like a wall decoration lighting, and it turned out great for the front and back lights because it just gives it that real 70s vibe. And even though I don't think there's any spacecraft in the Star Wars universe that looks quite like this, they do have a lot of very chunky retro looking spacecraft, so I thought that it would tie in really well. And then I don't know if I wasn't paying attention because I was like looking off to the wall. When I talk, I have a tendency to stare at the wall to think, and then I lose track of where we are in the speed build. So I don't know if I did this already, but I love the debug lamps or street lights from Discovery University, because they cast down this beam of light, kind of like stage lighting, but it looks really cool at night. So I put those around too. And then these are what are they? Are they drones? No, they're not drones. Whatever they are from Discovery University, like the party bots, that's it. They're like the party bots, the gardener bots. But I loved the caution tape look of it. I thought that would be perfect for a service vehicle. And then I was thinking the yellow strips at the bottom that I made out of the chemical analyzers could be some sort of hovercraft technology that helps it land softly. Because if you think about it, if you have a cargo ship and it's super heavy, then it's going to land really clunkily. So I thought maybe it has this special hovercraft technology that gives it a nice soft landing. And then I love doing this trick where I use the medieval lamps from Get Famous, turn them on their side so that there's moving fire in live mode, and then using those debug light flares from Realm of Magic. It's really the only Realm of Magic object I think that I use in this, but it just adds that, like, it's active, it's about to take off, or it's just landed. And then something else I love to use is things like toilets or gym equipment, because they can have such a sci-fi look, especially that talking toilet that we have. The talking toilet really doesn't work well for most builds, but for sci-fi builds it's perfect, and it had that yellow look, the yellow and grey, so it tied in perfectly to this as well. And then here I'm just starting to add all the clutter around the spacecraft to act as the cargo. Oh, and I used that debug restroom as the front. So there's like a man and woman symbol. I can't remember if I end up covering it or not, but you know, just ignore that part because it kind of looked like a spacey looking grill at the front of the vehicle. And then here's me trying to create the fin at the top, and I changed my mind so many times because I just couldn't figure out how to get that sleek look, because until we got Journey to Batuu, you know, I had to really try and come up with ways to make objects look more sci-fi. And so I was using benches and tables and here toilets and whatever I could to try and create that style. And I can't remember if I end up keeping the toilet or not, because I built this last year and I completely forgot to upload it as a video. That's just where my brain's at. I actually think I have several videos like this. I have 2 hard drives that are each a terabyte each, and they are filled with build footage that I just haven't turned into videos yet. So, and like this Black Spire Outpost build that I had originally created this for, I'm literally 2 rooms away from finishing it, but with all the build glitches I'm experiencing, I haven't been able to finish some of these big builds that are literally like a day away from being finished. So I'm really hoping that I can finish them so that I can post more videos of all the stuff I've been building. But anyways, so I copy and paste the room just so that I didn't have to keep rotating the same objects over and over. That way I could just pull them from the copycat version of the ship and position everything how I wanted them. And those red things that are, I think they're like the bumpers at the end of train tracks that came with Eco Lifestyle. And I used them as bumpers at the edge so that like cargo that's being pulled out from the side doesn't crash into anything. I know I probably think of things that most people just don't even care about, especially if it's The Sims, but I like to create a story or a reason why I'm building the thing that I'm building. And so I'm trying to think in real life, not that any of this is really realistic, but in real life, if you're pulling cargo out, you'd want to protect everything around it from flying cargo just sliding out the side. So it just seemed to make sense to me. And then I don't even remember what I was doing here. Oh, I was just trying to just shape the remaining parts of the ship that looked a bit chunky. I mean, the whole thing is chunky, but I was using a lot of the wall and other sci-fi looking decorations from Strangerville just to tie in. I love Strangerville. Until Journey to Batuu came out, Strangerville was my favorite sci-fi pack because it just has such great objects to create spacecrafts with. Anyway, so these lounge chairs end up being the best object I could find for making that big fin, and it's a bit patchwork looking, but I think it ties together pretty well. And the way that the lounge chair curves up in the back, I think these lounge chairs are from Eco Lifestyle. The way that it curves I thought could be part of the fin of the plane, like it's got these extra little mini wings on the side. I mean, the aerodynamics of it are probably not very good because it's kind of tilted to the side, so I'm assuming that would probably slow it down. But whatever, we'll just go with it because that's what fit, and at this point, I was so tired of trying to come up with how to make this fin that I was just like, you know what, this is good enough. So I spent a lot of time trying to tweak these beds, and I probably would have cut out the footage, but I do like to show you guys how I struggle with things as well, because I don't like people assuming that they can't come up with it as well because it's so easy for people like me or whatever. But trust me, if you follow me on Twitter, you know exactly how crazy my brain is and how hard it is for me to build this stuff sometimes. So I just want you guys to know that I feel you, and we're all in this together in terms of our brain just not being able to figure out how to do something, or running out of ideas, or spending a million hours just trying to tweak one little thing that really doesn't matter. But anyway, and then I use more of those theater lights to tie in the red that I had on top. Oh, and the way that I created those grey stripes on top of the red recycling machines, there's this debug, I think it's either Base Game or City Living, where it's got this grey curved railing, and usually railing can't be rotated, but that one in particular can. So I rotated it on the side and it created stripes like the theatre lighting has the grey stripes across. So I thought that tied in really nicely. And then I forgot to mention that I used a Get Famous platform, that like superhero platform, and I rotated them on the side as well to create that grey strip along the top that has a bit of the pale blue lighting. And then at the very top of the whatever, I'm having a hard time, I'm struggling with trying to think of the words. Whatever, the fin at the back of the ship, I thought it would look better to have another propeller engine on top of that. I just ended up putting a ton of propeller engines in the back of the ship because I figured it's a heavy spacecraft, so it's going to need a lot more power. So I put another one on top, and also because I needed to find some way to hide the fact that I had used lounge chairs as the fin and wings, whatever. So it's just a good excuse. Just make it look like it's intentional even though it's not. And then here I'm starting to actually make the cargo, and I thought that rotating these jacuzzis have such a spacey feel that it looked like a sci-fi type of crate. I just needed something to tie them both together. But before I did that, I wanted it to look like there were little robots, little drones pulling the cargo out of the ship. So I tilted a microphone stand as if it's gripping the cargo and pulling it out with one of these, I think, is that the Get Famous drones, or is that from Discovery University? I can't really remember. And then these crates from Get to Work also have that very cool space feel, and I use them as the whatever sort of trim that holds the crate closed, that holds it all together, and it has that cool triangle yellow symbol on it that also looks like a warning sign, and so it gives it that sense that it's a commercial vehicle that's being used. And then I use these coolers tilted forward as more of a trim that I put on the edges, because I was just trying to make everything tie in together really nicely and have, you know how sci-fi objects always have those rounded edges, so if you have something that's square, it actually has a very smooth and round edge. I feel like that's the hallmark of that retro style when sci-fi really started to take off in media, like through Star Wars and everything. So I wanted it to have that funky retro 70s type of feel to it. And then I just had to do some finishing touches, and a lot of that was just tweaking where I had positioned things, because I moved things around a little bit. And I love making spacecrafts, and it's been a while since I've made a spacecraft. Ever since Journey to Batuu came out, I didn't quite feel the need to make any more. And I think for me, one of the things that motivates me to make these crazy objects is just the challenge of there's nothing like it in the game, so I'm going to create one myself. But now that we have Journey to Batuu, it came with all of the debug spacecrafts. I haven't felt the same urge to build a spacecraft, but I think I want to get back into it and see what I can come up with, some new kinds of spacecraft. So if you have any ideas of some spacecrafts that you think would look cool for me to tackle, let me know. Put it in the comments below and I'll see if I can tackle it. Anyway, that's it. That's what I came up with. And this is the final spacecraft. This is how it looks all together. At first I didn't think I liked it, but it grew on me. I like that funky retro style. So if you want to use this in your builds, feel free to download it from my gallery. I'll put a link in the description below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it an encouraging thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified about fresh content. As always, guys, I love you so freaking much.